Well, today is the second Frilsham barbecue.
It's everyone almost in the village who's come along to have some food together and have a chat and maybe see people that they haven't seen for a long time.
I ate 2 hot dogs. I went on the swings. And the cake's very nice.
I have about one hot dog.
I had a sausage, some salad and a cake.
Personally, I enjoy the peace. It's lovely here. I come from London, so living here, no noise, nothing. I can sit here and relax all day. Beautiful.
We have lived here now just about 30 years. Well, lots of things. It's in the country, it's away from a city, but it's quite close to London, so I can see my children who all live there.
What do you enjoy most about living here?
Living with my family.
I like the people. We used to live, like I said, a mile and a half down the road, so we're used to being in this kind of area, which is beautiful, but the people are what make it really special.
There's always something going on, lots of friends, all sorts of and shapes and sizes of people, easy to get anywhere, but nice and tranquil and quiet and calm.
This is an old detailed map of Frilsham that was made way back in 1839, when Frilsham was really a bit different. And this is the part that has changed the most, because in those days, a great deal of Frilsham was just an old common. There were probably forests all across the top, like there is now, up in the high parts. But as soon as people had sheep, pigs and cows and things, they began eating down the forest. So it began to get cleared. This bit here shows where the church is. And it's funny shaped churchyard, which some people say shows it was once a pagan cemetery before even a church was built there. There is a rumour that there's an old stone in the churchyard, which was once part of a Roman temple.
What was the first church in Frilsham?
I think there was one in Anglo-Saxon times, which is about 1,000 years ago. Here I cover 3 churches, the churches of Frilsham, Hampstead Norris and Yattendon. I came to Frilsham about 6.5 years ago. I've got this love for God and for Jesus, and I want to be able to share it with other people.
What do you think God looks like?
You and me and everybody in this room and everybody in the world who's ever lived and is living now.
There was a St. Brideswide, and she came from Oxford. Her father was the Lord of Oxford. A local tribesman wanted to marry her, but she was a Christian lady and she did not want to marry this pagan one. So she escaped with 2 of her friends. One of the places she came into hiding was in Frilsham, and she lived in a swineherd's hut. She was a very holy lady, and she used the water from the well to heal people. And so that's very, very early, when Christianity had only just come round here. The church was probably built about 300 or 400 years after that. And whether it was immediately dedicated to her, I don't know, but now it is, yes.
We moved into Frilsham in 2003, which was the long hot summer that I think everybody remembers. So when we first moved in, we spent a long summer evening sitting in the garden, having barbecue, sitting out there in a t-shirt till midnight because it was so hot that summer. So I'll always remember that. This summer it'll be 7 years since we moved in. I enjoy the village life. I think it's a very good community here. I enjoy the rural aspects of the village, the fact that it's surrounded by woodland and beautiful countryside. We've got the Pang Valley. I've lived in the Pang Valley area for about 15 years, so I know I love the area. And also not far away, you've got the Downland moving towards Compton and the Ridgeway. There's lovely open countryside up there.
The woods have been here for a very long time. And what tended to happen was that down by the river, there wasn't woods because it kept flooding. And then they had fields just above that. And then on the parts where it was too steep to make fields, that's where the woods were grown. And then on the top, where the soil was very poor, that's where the common was, where the animals grazed on the rough grass. Frilsham's a very, very old village. It was here over 1,000 years ago. The first people we know about was caught in the Domesday Book was someone called De Ferrers, who owned Frilsham way back about 1,000 years ago. I expect to begin with people just drove their cattle through here and they stopped and grazed for a little while, and then eventually they settled, and then someone began building a house, one house and then another house, and then 2 or 3 little cottages and then another house, then perhaps a barn or a cowshed or something, in bits and pieces over a long time.
It was lovely, really, you know, to have your own house, but of course we weren't very well off, so we didn't have fitted carpets and things like that in those days, but it was very comfortable and we enjoyed it. We had a nice big garden.
One of the big changes came after the Second World War, when they built all the council houses here. That gave Frilsham a sense of independence because they weren't dependent on the local landlord. So you got people with an independent spirit coming to live here in the council houses.
The previous Lord Iliff, 3 times removed from this one, gave the land for the houses to be built for ex-servicemen, so that there was somewhere for them to come to when they got home. So that's how we got the house. It was under Bradfield District Council then. I mean, as things went, we did have bathrooms and water toilets and things like that, which people in the cottages down the road didn't have.
About 150 years ago, there were about the same number of people living here as now, but there weren't nearly so many houses because they lived ever so much more crowded up in their little houses.
So originally there was the small one-up, one-down house at the roadside end of the current house, and we think about 8 people lived in that. So if you imagine a family with 6 children living in 1 living room downstairs and 1 bedroom upstairs. So it must have been quite a squash. Then we do know that the end of the house towards the valley was built in 1833 because there's a carved brick in the wall with initials WT, MT and 1833 and the name Toms. And that was the Toms family. They must have extended it in that year. And then shortly after that it became the village shop.
And that's the house that was the shop with a little extra door in for the shop coming in.
We know that this house was the village shop for a long time, for about 100 years. We know that because we've got census records in the sort of 50s and 60s that when Arthur Creasy ran it, he sold basic household commodities, I think, things like paraffin fuel, which was useful for people's stoves, matches, tins of food and that kind of thing. So I think it was quite a simple, basic village shop. The story I've heard is that he would shut up shop at exactly the same time every day, and then he'd set off across the fields down a footpath, and he'd be established in the pot kiln by about 6 o'clock in the evening with a pint in hand.
And that was where there used to be a kiln where they made bricks and tiles. And then I think they opened up as a pub for their workmen. They needed something to drink, probably, and place for their snacks at lunchtime.
I've seen a lot of changes in the pot kiln. My father and mother pushed me down there in a pushchair, and I still drink in the pot kiln to this day. So that's about 56 years I've been going in that public house. To me, it's another vocal point of the community, isn't it? You meet friends, you have a talk.
We've had the pub now for nearly 5 years. This building was built as a pub originally, so it's always been a pub. It's been a home as well, but at the same time as being a pub.
When was the pub built?
It was around 1700. The pot kiln is a kiln shaped like a pot. It was for making bricks. And the bricks built all the houses in the area. We get a lot of locals in, obviously, and all sorts of activities throughout the year that bring in the people who live nearby.
I work 5 days and I have Saturday and Sunday off if we're not in harvest or there's another job that needs doing. The people that's milking, whichever comes in there first, it comes on a computer and it'll be clocked up, and then they start to milk. When it's finished, they will tell you how many litres it's done. I think they're averaging at the moment about 10,000 litres a day.
Well, it's always been a little place that people didn't go through. I lived about 5 miles away for 40 years without ever coming to Frilsham, because you don't go through Frilsham to get anywhere. You have to come specially to Frilsham, don't you? But people who live here seem to love living here.
He always turns around.
I love the village as it is, really. The fact there aren't street lights means we get fantastic night skies, so we see the stars are very bright and the moon is fantastic. The fact that there are no pavements is just part of, again, part of a rural village. We've got the club room, which I think is we've had a great village effort to upgrade the club room, and that's a great facility which I think everybody now treasures.
In a small area of land, lots of people can hear the motorway because it's such a small village.
And the motorway, when it was finally built, came across somewhere like this. The motorway was built in 1972, and that really made a huge difference when it cut right the way through. And it separated Frilsham from Yattendon. All through here there was just this little footpath coming through the common. It wasn't a proper road like we have now.
Well, when we moved to Frilsham, nobody had a car, you see. We all had bicycles. So we used to cycle down to Yattendon to the shops or walk. And there was a path that went right down through the woods. And now when the motorway was built, the bridge was put there, so that upset the walk, really. We didn't agree with it because of all the noise we were going to have. But of course, nothing could be done about it because they just got on and built it. Yes, we were very upset about it.
To begin with, it took some of the traffic off the local roads. But after that, people, I think, got more and more cars and more cars. So we're now back to being a lot worse than before it was built.
If you could change one thing about Frilsham, what would it be?
Other than the M4, I would change, oh goodness, I wouldn't change the people. I would probably enhance the center of Frilsham, improve that notice board and the road going off to Beachfields.
Put some more facilities in for the young people and maybe the old people, and maybe fill in the potholes on the road.
For young people, there's a limit to what they can do. Limited facilities, so if you want to go swimming or go to the cinema or whatever, really you need to go to Newbury, which is quite a reasonable drive away. So some level of public transport, perhaps beyond what we've got now, would be good. But at the moment, I think I'm committed really to spending the next 10 years as a taxi driver.
Well, I think safety, because it's a village, it's very small and it's less expected for cars to come around, but when they do, it's very unexpected.
One thing I would like to stop is people driving too fast on country lanes. So that's one thing that I think people should recognise the limits of the roads and drive at the right sort of speed.
Really, because the village isn't really, well, it's really nice because it has lots of woodland and animals.
What do you enjoy most about living here?
Well, there's like lots of friends to like mess about with, and there's like a football pitch and parks. And yeah.
What would you change?
Well, like I think like the park should have like more stuff to do in it, because there's only swims at the moment. So
They used to do Frilsham Figs at night, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that because you got to hang out with all the kids in the village, and then they stopped it, so I would like something like that again, maybe.
They did used to run a youth club, which was Yattendon and Frilsham. They used to have it in the club room sometimes, but they don't anymore. They just have it in Yattendon.
I've been interviewing the people from the dairy, the church, and the pub. There's lots of things to find out. I found out a lot about it, like the local history of the pub, and that's Reverend Tony did speak to God once. I'd like toy shops, because there isn't many toy shops. And I also found out that there are 800 cows in the dairy. So you would like sweet shops? Yes, stuff like that.